Fight fans, welcome to the PBC Podcast, brought to you by Premier Boxing Champions with your host, Kenneth Bouhairie and Michael Rosenthal.
Welcome, everyone, to the PBC Podcast. I'm Kenneth Bouhairie.
And I'm Michael Rosenthal, editor of USA Today's Boxing Junkie.
Thanks, as always, for tuning in. We've got a pretty good show this week. One of the best trainers in the game, if not the best, Derrick James, will be joining us. And he's got a bit of a bombshell that he's about to drop, so you don't want to miss that. Plus, we're going to recap what turned out to be an amazing weekend of boxing as Tyson, Fury, and Deontay Wilder gave us a battle for the ages. And in today's toe-to-toe section, we'll list our top 5 heavyweight bouts of the past 30 years. But let's kick things off with another great fight coming our way on November 20th. Undefeated WBO World Welterweight Champion Terrence "Bud" Crawford taking on two-time champion Showtime Shawn Porter. Last Saturday, a press conference was held announcing the fight, the first time they've shared the stage together. Mike, what were your initial thoughts seeing that?
Well, my first thought was finally, and then my second thought was this is exciting. Crawford hasn't faced a threat quite like Porter, who I believe has a real chance of having his hand raised in this fight, and I know I'm not alone. I've just been waiting for this for a long time. I can't wait until the opening bell rings.
Yeah, I think this has the potential to be a fight of the year candidate. Porter's made his intentions known. He wants to stop Terrence Crawford. What do you make of this goal of trying to knock Bud out?
Well, I think that might be more talk than anything else, meant to get into Crawford's head or just promote the fight. Porter's a pro, and he knows what kind of opportunity this is. He's going to do his thing, which is to keep pressure on Crawford from beginning to end. And it won't matter to him how he wins as long as he does.
Yeah, definitely. I do think he's looking to make a statement, but, victory above all. Speaking of which, what does a win mean for each fighter?
Oh, man, it's just huge for both guys. Crawford has been criticized for years now for not having faced a fighter at Porter's level. Well, here it is. It's here. If he can dominate Porter like he's dominated his other opponents, then that just lifts him to a new level in terms of respect. And if Porter wins, he's bigger than he's ever been. He'll be where he would have been had he gotten the decision over Errol Spence Jr., somewhere like that. There's a lot at stake for both guys.
Yeah, and I think perhaps the Hall of Fame even at stake for both guys, depending on how the fight turns out and how they win. Obviously, Porter wants that Spence rematch, and a win against Crawford gives him just cause, as if their first fight, which was great, wasn't close enough. But we're going to find out very, very soon. Let's get on with the show, kicking things off with the week in review. Last Saturday, we witnessed a tremendous battle between arguably the two best heavyweights of their era, Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder. They met for the third time, and it was by far the best of what was an incredible trilogy. 5 knockdowns in all in the third fight. Wilder tasted canvas 3 times, Fury 2 times, and in the end, Fury won via 11th round TKO over a courageous Bronze Bomber. Mike, what made this fight so great?
Well, first, it wasn't because it was artistic, although Fury's ability to not get knocked out by Wilder took a lot of skill, in my opinion. The fight had ebbs and flows. It had plot twists, if you will. That's required in all great fights. The action was pretty much nonstop. They both tried to end matters with their right hands from beginning to end, and we got a dramatic knockout in the end. I think, but what really made this a great fight was the courage and determination these guys displayed. Honestly, I don't know how Wilder lasted as long as he did. Just pure guts, I guess. That's the ultimate gift fighters can give fans, the will to continue fighting when it just seems impossible to do so. The efforts turned in by these guys was just inspiring in that respect.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with, everything that you just said. Where does this fight rank among the best fights you've seen?
Well, I've been covering boxing for most of the last 30 years, and I've been a fan for longer than that. I've seen a lot of great fights, and I don't hesitate to say that this was among the best of them. The back and forth action alone, just that in itself was riveting. If you add the magnitude of the fight, the fact that it took place at heavyweight, which, ratchets it up a notch, and it ended in a brutal knockout, it has to be considered one of the best fights in recent memory. I was in a daze after that fight. That doesn't happen to me very often after all these years.
Yeah, I was in a daze a couple days after the fight. I mean, there's some fights that I've attended in person that may have had way more, not way more, but more back and forth. Spence versus Porter comes to mind. Yuri Boy Campus versus John Duddy is another. But all the things you mentioned, when you take the historical significance of this bout, the fact that it was heavyweights, a trilogy, two big stars. This was the best I've ever been to. How surprising was this fight?
I was surprised. I thought Fury had the blueprint to beat Wilder after their second fight, and I thought he wouldn't have much trouble following it. Well, Wilder obviously had different ideas. He came in about as prepared as he could, both physically and mentally. While I knew he was a tough guy going into the fight, I never, ever imagined that he had that kind of determination. I did think his only chance was to land one big shot, and he came close to winning that way in the fourth round, actually 2 shots in this case. Overall, though, I never expected what these guys delivered in a million years.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I knew both guys were courageous, had huge hearts, but it's for me, it's not even, I didn't know that Deontay had such courage. I didn't know human beings had such courage. Right. I mean, that was just incredible what happened. Did you think the fight was over when Wilder went down in round 3, or might be over?
Well, my initial reaction was, this is sort of a gut reaction, immediate, was, okay, here we go again. Fury caught him and he was hurt. And he didn't have good body language at all after that knockout, at least to my eye. And Fury landed another good right after the action resumed. That's when Wilder showed us, but he showed me for the first time that, I'm not going anywhere. I'm just not going anywhere. You're really going to have to knock me out for this fight to end. He weathered the storm, and I should add that he was at least somewhat fortunate that the knockout happened late in the round. So that, in that respect, maybe he was a little bit lucky. I don't know if he would have been stopped anyway, but that helped him, I think.
Yeah, and the same could be said for Fury in the fourth round, where the bell rang. What did you think when that happened?
I thought there was a chance that he was going to regain the title right then and there, Wilder. As everyone knows, this is no revelation. Wilder has the power to stop anybody if he lands the right punch or punches. Fury is no exception. He was hurt both times he went down. I mean, that right hand that he landed the first time was just monstrous. You just saw his knees buckle, and then he got him again. I definitely think Fury was lucky. I'll just reiterate what you just said. I definitely think that Fury was lucky that the second knockdown happened with about 30 seconds to go in the round. That gave him a full minute to recover between rounds, and that was huge.
Yeah, for sure. It certainly did. In your opinion, how was Fury able to ultimately take control and finish the job?
I think the keys for Fury were, one, his resilience. Both guys were really resilient, but also Fury's ability to avoid taking another huge shot from Wilder, which, again, I think takes more skill than people realize. Somebody I have a lot of respect for, said, well, neither guy looked like they really knew what they were doing in there. It was just like this slugfest. I think Fury knew exactly what he was doing. He stayed out of range. He ducked. He held. Whatever it took to avoid those big shots. And in the meantime, he gradually broke Wilder down and landed the punches necessary to end it in the end.
Yeah, it was his composure. I mean, he never lost his composure, even when he was in serious trouble. What does this fight do for Fury's legacy?
I think that fight makes him something akin to a legend. It's weird. He beat the crap out of Wilder in their second fight, but it's the third fight in which he goes life and death much of the way that lifts him to more rarefied air. People love when anyone, and under any circumstances, overcomes adversity, overcomes a daunting challenge. That's what Fury did in this fight. It's also important that he got the knockout, I think. Not only did he overcome the knockdowns and a spirited effort from Wilder, he gave fans a brutal knockout to end the show. It was without a doubt the greatest night of his career.
Yeah, he closed the show like a true champion would, and I think Sugar Hill said that's what the big dogs do. What did this fight do for Deontay Wilder's legacy?
Well, I know he would take a boring victory over a knockout loss in an epic battle any day of the week. But the fact is, unless I'm reading this wrong, Wilder emerges from that setback with his legacy enhanced. And maybe that doesn't happen too often, that you get knocked out, but your legacy is enhanced. But I think that's what happened. Okay, he lost. Okay, he's not as good as Fury. I think he showed that he's better than many believed he was. I think Fury was spot on when he said he's the number one heavyweight in the world and Wilder is number two. Although I have a lot of respect for Alexander Usyk. More important, fans are just never, ever going to forget the courage Wilder displayed in that fight. Honestly, I get a little bit emotional when I think about it. There's something profound, something that touches you in a deep way when you see a person give all of himself and then more, beyond that, under the most difficult circumstances. He just has my undying respect after what he did.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think back to, Evander Holyfield. I know obviously Holyfield is a legend now and revered, but prior to his fight versus Riddick Bowe, he sort of looked as like a placeholder champion until Mike Tyson returned or some other big heavyweight beat him. He just didn't really have that kind of respect in the heavyweight division until that first fight with the Riddick Bowe, where he lost and was dropped as well. And then after that, folks realized, oh man, this guy's one hell of a heavyweight, and obviously he showed in the future. And I think that was the case with Deontay Wilder on Saturday night. You mentioned what he showed. Can you think of a more courageous effort?
No. I think about the Arturo Gatti, Mickey Ward trilogy. Those guys showed some kind of courage in those fights, just like from beginning to end. I thought about Ali and Frazier in the Thrilla in Manila, after which Ali said it was the nearest thing to death he'd ever experienced. And Frazier would have kept fighting if Eddie Futch had allowed him to, after the 14th round. I mean, that's just crazy courage, crazy determination. I think Wilder's effort was on that level. I mean, this is just one brave guy.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, fight's over. In your opinion, what would you like to see? What's next for Tyson Fury?
Well, it looks like Usyk is going to fight Anthony Joshua a second time, as per a rematch clause from their first fight. So I don't think we'll see Fury Usyk for the undisputed championship until, at the very earliest, next fall, if he's able to beat Joshua again. I suppose they could pay Joshua to step aside, but I think that's unlikely. It would just take a tremendous amount of money. I put together for, assuming that fight, that Usyk Joshua 2 takes place, I put together for Boxing Junkie a list of 5 guys I think would make an interesting next opponent for Fury. They are the winner of the Dillian White Otto Wallin fight that's coming up in a few weeks. Andy Ruiz Jr., who's got the story behind him, his history with Joshua. Robert Helenius, who I thought just looked sensational now in back-to-back fights. Joe Joyce, who's a big figure in the UK. And Frank Sanchez, who I thought looked terrific in his fight against F.A. Ajagba, at least in terms of the way he boxed. Fury apparently has indicated that White, in one way or another, that White is the logical next opponent for him. So maybe it's him if he beats Wallin, but let's wait and see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, I won't, Andre Ward mentioned that Peace Fury, he just, rests up and waits for the undisputed fight that should be next. But, I mean, any of those fights are good. But that said, he's a significant favorite, almost all of those guys that you just listed. What about for Deontay Wilder? What should be next for him?
Well, that depends on what he wants to do, obviously. I said last week that he'd be okay, even if he lost, as long as he didn't get blown out. He didn't get blown out. I mean, he got knocked out in the end, but he gave a hell of a performance.
He sure did.
Yeah, he could say, you know what, enough's enough. That 2 knockouts now. He took a lot of punches in the last couple fights. After all, he's already reached the pinnacle of the sport. He's 35 years old. I'm just going with my gut. I doubt we've seen the last of him, though. I think he comes back in the spring, maybe. Maybe he fights Ruiz or Wallin or one of the other guys I mentioned earlier. Or maybe Joshua. Obviously that would be a big fight, depending how things play out. Wilder might be able to beat anyone not named Fury. I think he fights on, especially with a lot of money still on the table for him. People are going to want to see him fight again after his performance on Saturday.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, that said, I want to see him take a long vacation, get some rest, as Malik Scott said, his trainer, and, spend some time with the family. He's got an incredible legacy. He was part of an incredible trilogy. He's on the back 9 of his career. So, take some time, rest up, and then after his vacation, he can decide what he wants to do, who he wants to face, and so forth. Now, in the co-feature, two undefeated heavyweights squared off, and in the end, Frank Sanchez, who you just mentioned, pulled off a minor upset, outpointing F.A. Ajagba by comfortable unanimous decision over 10 rounds. Mike, what were your thoughts on the fight?
Well, as I alluded to earlier, I thought Sanchez looked really good in terms of his boxing. I think he just kind of outclassed Ajagba, and I think that he might be he is as good as any heavyweight in terms of his boxing ability. He really knows what he's doing. It's that Cuban amateur background. I guess the problem, I'm not even sure if this is a problem, but an observation is that I'm not sure he's got, we talk about the fighters, whether they have dogs in them. I'm not sure what kind of dog he has in him. I just don't think that's his style. He doesn't fight like that. So I don't know. I don't know if that's something that come back to haunt him, or if he can get by without that in his career, but overall, liked what I see, but I wonder about the fact that he doesn't like to mix it up.
Yeah, he certainly doesn't. But when Ajagba did try and fight, try to get at him, so to speak, he did fight fire with fire.
Good counters. Yeah. Good counter punches. Yeah.
There's something there. He just had way too many tools though, so it's hard to tell. I thought Ajagba was tentative, and I think if he got reckless, he might have gotten stopped. Where does Ajagba go from here?
Yeah, it's only one loss, and he lost to a like I said, he lost to a guy who really knows what he's doing. I don't know. The jury's still out on Ajagba. I don't think he's very quick. I don't think he's a great boxer. I think he's a big, strong guy. I don't know. Maybe you take a small step back and get another win under his belt and sort of see how he could develop. But I don't know. I don't see him as being the guy.
Yeah, I think that was a tough loss to take, and you look at that and couple that with his fight versus, I believe it was Cajano a couple of years ago, where he got floored, and it's certainly concerning. What about Sanchez though? Where does he go from here?
I think he took another step toward a title shot. I don't know where he fits in. I really don't. I don't know if he could get one of the champions into the ring, but I think he's virtually there. I think all he has to do is keep winning. He's going to get a title shot at some point. Now, he did fight a top, I don't know if you call it Ajagba top contender, but he fought a contender. I think that's who he's going to fight from now on. I don't know specifically who he can get into the ring, but I think he's at that point of his career.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that he just continues to move up the ladder. Now, the fight before that one, Robert Helenius and Adam Kovnatski, they squared off for a second time. First time was March 2020. Helenius stopped Kovnatski in 4. He handed him his first loss. This time, it took Helenius 6 rounds to score the stoppage, but I believe he was far more dominant in doing so. What was your take on this fight?
It was about what I expected, although I thought Kovnatski would put up a better fight, frankly. In the first fight, I thought he was doing pretty well until he got caught and he got stopped. In this fight, Helenius more or less just overwhelmed him. Yeah. Helenius just calmly, coldly broke him down, and there was nothing that he could do about it. I think the low blows came just out of desperation. He just didn't know what to do. He just had no answers. Great performance by Helenius, not so great for Kovnatski, obviously.
What's next for Kovnatski?
Good question. I think he's an example of how a guy can be near the top 1 minute and near the depths in the next. I suspect he reached a ceiling before meeting Helenius. He's a pretty good, highly entertaining guy who I suspect is always going to have trouble against the top guys in the division. I doubt he'll quit. He's still a young guy. I would put him in with a second-tier opponent to sort of rebuild some of his confidence. That's got to be shot. Maybe make some adjustments in the gym and then see where it goes.
What about Helenius?
I mean, isn't he a remarkable story?
Yeah.
I think pretty much everyone thought he was done, especially after he was stopped by Gerald Washington. Now he's has back-to-back demolitions of a top heavyweight, and he's a major player again, just like that. I think he's a legit opponent for anyone, and I mean anyone. He might also be a threat to anyone. He's a big, strong guy, and he really knows what he's doing in there. He's got a ton of power. Maybe you put him in with Frank Sanchez. If Andy Ruiz doesn't get a bigger fight, maybe he could fight a guy like Andy Ruiz. If you want a fun fight, I thought of Chris Arreola if he still wants to fight. I think Helenius is ready for any of these guys.
Yeah, exactly. It seems like he's peaking right now at this point in his career, and all those fights would be incredibly entertaining, for fight fans. Now, in the televised pay-per-view opener, rising heavyweight prospect Jared Anderson looked fantastic, stopping Vladimir Tereshkin in 2 rounds. But the big surprise on the card was the battle between former unified super welterweight champion Julian J. Rock Williams and rugged southpaw Vladimir Hernandez. Williams, a heavy favorite, controlled the first half of the fight, but Hernandez came on strong, winning a split decision in a major upset. What were your thoughts watching this one?
That was pretty shocking, frankly. I know what kind of ability, everybody knows what kind of ability Williams has. I expected him to outclass Hernandez, the whole way in one way or another. He just didn't look good. He was more flat-footed than I'm used to seeing him. He was a step behind Hernandez. At least I was going to say most of the fight, but certainly the last part of the fight, he looked kind of lost in the second half of the fight. Maybe it was the long layoff. He hadn't been in the ring for quite some time. Maybe a spirited effort from Hernandez played a role. I mean, Hernandez he looked like a beast, and he was like ridiculously fit. He just kept coming and coming. It might have been a combination of both of those things. I don't know. It just didn't look like Julian Williams to me. Meanwhile, you got to give Hernandez credit. The guy really turned in a great performance. He deserved that win, in my opinion.
Yeah, and he took some heavy shots early on. I mean, Julian J-Rock looked like J-Rock in the early going, but then he just sort of wilted. You mentioned the 21-month off layoff. I mean, he had surgery. He also had COVID. So who knows, what were the reasons for that performance. But, I don't want to take anything away from Hernandez, obviously. Should there be a rematch?
I suppose a rematch makes sense. Williams needs to correct whatever it was that went wrong on Saturday. Maybe you're right. Maybe it was just conditioning from the long layoff, rustiness. Maybe COVID played a role. Anyway, he gave Hernandez a good opportunity by fighting him. I like the idea of Hernandez giving Williams another shot at him.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you. Now, also on the undercard, unbeaten super middleweight prospect Edgar Berlanga. He's been highly touted, but he looked human against unheralded Marcelo Esteban Caceres, tasting the canvas and eating his fair share of shots on his way to a 10-round decision win. Berlanga, I'm talking about. What did you make of his performance?
I didn't think it was an elite performance, which might be alarming at this point. He's still young. He can still grow. But I thought he'd be better than he's been in his last 2 fights. He looked fantastic when he was knocking everyone out. But now, against better opposition, suddenly his power isn't enough to get the job done. And his skills still look a little raw to me. I don't think it's appropriate. At least I'm not willing to write the guy off in any way, shape, or form yet. It's just way too early for that. At the same time, I wonder whether he's as good as he seemed to be early on. I think time's going to tell.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. I think this fight was certainly raised some red flags, and I do think that perhaps we should pump the brakes on all the hype. During the fight, one fan yelled out, "Come on, Berlanga, how are you going to beat Canelo if you can't knock out this guy?" I mean, that's how ridiculous the hype had gotten for Berlanga, and I think it's clear he's not there yet. Perhaps, he will one day, but that fight right there was a little concerning. And with that, it's time to bring in our guest this week. He is arguably the best trainer in the game, currently has 2 unified world champs in his camp, and he's gunning for more. The one and only Derrick James. Derrick, first things first, how are you and your family doing?
We're doing good, man. Everybody's good, man. My kids, my wife is good. We're all good.
That's good, man. I didn't see you in Vegas this weekend. I don't know if you got a chance to watch Fury Wilder 3, but if you did, what'd you think?
Well, yeah, I didn't go to Vegas because, man, it was the HBCU football game in Dallas. I was like, I'm not missing that. So
okay.
I was like, I wanted to see that game instead of the fight. But I thought it was action-packed. I thought people got their money's worth. I think that obviously the way people were talking about it, they really basically loved it. So I think it's cool that they were able to see something that they'll remember this, like Stephen A. and different people saying how this was like one of the best fights he's ever attended.
Yeah.
He must have come to Sean Porter and Errol Spence fight, but we're not going to say. But no, it was good, man. I think it was a great fight. It was a great weekend of boxing.
Yeah.
Derrick, in your opinion, is there anything Deontay could have done to reverse the outcome?
Man, I'm not a personal critic of an individual. I just think that, if he would have came out and not start punching so hard, because the harder you punch, the more fatigued you become. And I think that the understanding of his power is that his power is not coming from how physically strong he thought he was. You think he pitched 350? The power comes from the rotation of the body. So if you notice the punches that he let me see. This has not been a critic. This is just being. So when he knocked him down, he threw a 1-2. And he threw it right down the pipe. And it was like, you have to shoot that shot, you got to have tight elbows. And the way the punch landed, because he could not see the right hand coming after the jab.
Yeah.
But if you're punching from with the elbows out, you may throw a jab, and every time you throw a right hand, that means that right hand is not coming directly at the same angle as the jab. So you're not going to end it because you can see it coming out of the corner of his eye. And I think that's probably what one of the biggest issues was, is that his elbows were not tucked. So it's like it made every punch wide and not so controlled, or not so. It's hard to be precise.
Yeah.
And it's hard for the guy not to see the punch coming. So that's what I think it was. But I mean, he did his best, man. You know, I think that's more mechanics than anything. But he did his best, and I just think punching so hard brings on more fatigue. So that's why I say use your body, because you can shake your body all day long, 24 hours. They have people do the hula hoop contest, you know.
Yeah. 24
hours, but so you just shifting weight. I think that when you try to load up so much, the harder you punch, the more fatigued you become. And so I think that's what he fell victim of. The fatigue of trying to punch so hard.
Makes sense. What are your thoughts on Fury as a fighter?
I think that he's a pretty decent fighter. I think he's a good fighter. I think that his fortitude, his mental fortitude, and his toughness. With both of the guys are amazing, but I think that's where, because a lot of times you don't really see big guys that tough, you know, those two guys, or Lennox Lewis or Holyfield. It's like a small amount of guys that are really tough like that. Because I mean, big guys, you think about this, they're never challenged in life. You're a big guy, nobody's gonna fight you, so you never have to show how tough you really are. Because who's gonna fight that guy? Who's that crazy? And so I think that, but these guys are tough. They have a level of fortitude, and they have a level of determination. And I mean that you rarely see with most guys, or any other smaller fighters. I mean, because big guys, they get tired. But he had a game plan, he had a strategy. It really it was an old Emmanuel Stewart. Same thing Emmanuel Stewart did with them, the Klitschko brothers, that they throw a couple punches and hold, or lay on you, and use the body for that, to tire you out. I mean, so he had a game plan. He stuck to it all the way throughout the fight.
Yeah, love that. If you were handling Deontay, what would you tell him after a fight like that, where he gives everything he possibly had and then he ends up getting knocked out?
Well, I would think that me personally, I think that you win fights before the fight. So I would think that I failed him. It's what I would think of myself. It's like when Jermell lost to Tony Harrison, no different. It took a long time for me to go over, because it was like I put myself into the situation. So I feel like I failed him. So I would think that it would be, I don't know what because you just have to tell him that, I think that fighting all the way through and being a warrior, that's what you really wanted. I wouldn't prefer nobody take punches like that, or be, punched like that, because I think that you only have so many punches to take in your life or your career.
Right.
And if you take those big, hard shots, there's going to be one where you start slurring. It's going to get to that point where, everything slows down. I think that I don't want that. I wouldn't want that to be my guy and going through that. So I would probably stopped it, I'm not scared of him, but I think that you just tell him hey man, just fight another day. If that fight like that takes a lot out of you also. So
Yeah.
I think that you just got to be able to take that type of those. I mean, because what's funny, this was happening to me. So I'm watching the fight, and like it's a time limit on whatever my television. I'm recording it. So what happened is I'm watching the fight, and before the fight's over, and my thing time's out. So for a round and a half, I'm trying to find out how to get back to the fight. So I really missed those last couple of rounds, and when I got it back on, Tyson Fury landed the last shot to put him down. So that so very, very like I'm a Deontay Wilder fan. So I was bothered, but I mean that's the game. That's what happens. I mean that's the business we're in, man. Things like that happen, and just got to go, get yourself back together, regroup, and think about what you can do different the next time. I mean, I heard he doesn't jog, something like that. I heard, so I think that you have to get something different. You have to be willing to do something different.
Yeah. Now, you, of course, trained the Truth, Errol Spence Jr., the undefeated unified welterweight champ. Can you tell us how Errol's recovery from eye surgery is going?
He's doing good, man. He's been back in the gym for like 2 or 3 weeks or so. Just working out. He's not no real intentions on. I don't know what he's gonna do, but he's just in the gym, just working, just finding himself again, but staying on top of the situation. You gotta find yourself. You gotta stay on top of your business. And that's what he's doing. He's just working, man. Just working.
Is there a timetable for his ring return?
That I don't know. I don't know about that. I just, I'm not sure that one.
So you sort of taking your time. He hasn't started sparring or anything like that, right?
No, none of that. No, he's like a month and a half or 2 months away from that.
Okay.
Yeah, he's not. That's not even a thought right now. He's just trying to, he's coming to the gym and having fun. Just kind of working out, still staying in shape, keeping the weight down. That's what it's all about for him. Just, staying in shape, keeping the weight down.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, it kind of shows you what his mindset is. Right now. Has he talked about who he would want to face when he comes back?
Well, I think that he's gonna go follow through with. I'm just assuming follow through with who he was gonna fight before the Pacquiao fight. So I think that Pacquiao was an opportunity for something to come up, and he took it, but he wasn't able to fight the fight. So I think that. I don't know. So I don't want to say because I don't know, but I just think that, it's going to be a pretty interesting challenge. Yeah.
Forgive me, I don't remember. Who was he supposed to fight before Pacquiao fight?
You got to look it up. You look it up.
Well, I'll definitely do that if you're not going to tell me.
Ugas. I think it was Ugas.
It was Ugas.
It's Ugas. That's right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, well, there you go.
I believe that's who it was. That's what I'm assuming.
I'm a little slow. I'm still recovering from the fight over the weekend. So speaking of Pacquiao, he was supposed to fight Pacquiao before the injury. How difficult was it emotionally to have to pull out of a fight like that, a defining fight like that? It's huge. It would have been huge for Errol.
I think it was difficult, man. I think that the fact that you have something like that is a dream come true. And something happens where you don't get to fulfill something that you desire.
Right.
It takes a lot, man. Even when I went up, for me, man, I went up there and I really was kind of more. I didn't really want to be bothered. I really didn't want to answer questions about it. That's really what it was more than anything. I just didn't want to talk about it. And I was really kind of almost like, not embarrassed, but kind of like, man, what am I hiding for? I don't need. But I was just like, I just didn't want to deal with it, right? Yeah. I would talk to people about it, but so if I felt like that, how do you think he felt? He probably felt even worse, So, but it's life, man. We just have to deal with it, and you see where he's at now. So that's how he's dealing with it. He's getting back on the situation.
There you go. Move forward. So Errol's been at 147 for so long. How much longer do you expect him to be there?
I think that as long as he desires. I mean, I think that it could be some years, maybe some, I mean, I think really, to be honest, it could be like a year or two, at least another year, maybe two.
Oh,
at least a year.
I like that. Now, speaking of the welterweight division, last Saturday was the first press conference for the Terrence Crawford-Shawn Porter match. What are your thoughts on that fight?
I kind of don't really have any. I'm just going to watch it as a fan. So I get to sit back and watch it, and then I'm sure, the winner will be gunning for us. So I'm just going to watch it as a fan, man. I'm not even going to I have no desires in it. I have nothing. I just want to, partake in this, watch it as a fan. I'm not going to the fight. I don't want to be a distraction or a target. Another conversation. I don't want to be a part of the conversation, but I think it's gonna be pretty great to watch. And I'm looking for a great fight, man. I mean, it's up to. I think that this is what I think about Shawn Porter. I think Shawn Porter really wants to fight Errol Spence again, and the only way he's gonna fight Errol Spence again is he has to beat Terrence Crawford. So I think that Terrence Crawford is going to have to face. But at the same time, I think that Terrence Crawford is fighting a guy that Errol Spence took a lot out of. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. Now, do you have a prediction?
Oh, no. Man, listen. The only way I enjoy boxing is I don't really care about who wins or loses.
Yeah.
So Deontay Wilder fight, I really didn't really enjoy it. That's why I don't see how people liked it, but I didn't like it. Because I didn't get what I wanted. That's why you think about it. That's why I go into a fight, watching the fight with no desire. Because generally when people go in for a particular thing that they desire and they don't get it, they didn't enjoy the fight. So that was one that I normally don't get involved with, but I normally don't care, but I mean, I just care about a good fight, but I really wanted him to win, so
Yeah.
That's a good point. So you posted a photo of Errol training with Marcus Browne in your gym. Browne is fighting unified world light heavyweight champ Artur Beterbiev on December 17. I know he usually trains in New York. How did he end up in Dallas?
Yes, hey man, it just happened. It just happened. I mean, it just happened because we were in Vegas and he wasn't with me, but he was in Vegas, and he moved to Dallas.
Oh, wow.
So he's there long term.
Moving to Dallas. By him moving to Dallas, I mean, he came to the gym and he called me. Well, really, I called him because I heard he was in town. And I said that, hey, man, see you in town. And, it's kind of, just like you take him a plate, basically. He had the new neighbor come by. He had a new neighbor. You go over and greet him to the new neighborhood and whatever. That's kind of what happened.
Did you take him to Turkey Leg Hut?
No, man, that's in Houston. I'm in Dallas.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, but we just, I invited him to the gym or whatever, and he came by the gym and he worked out. And then after he worked out, he kind of, he said, hey, you think tomorrow you can work me out? I mean, work with Mitchell? I was like, okay, I ain't doing nothing. Man, I really kind of don't do that. I don't mess with people's fighters, but he, he wanted that, and so I worked him out. Then that was kind of it. It just kind of happened,
What are your thoughts on Browne, and how do you like his chances against Beterbiev?
Listen, I like his chances. I like his tenacity. I like the individual that he is, the man that he is. So, I think that, we're gonna, because it's a we thing now. It's a we thing, so, And we're gonna go get him. I mean, he's already been working. His time is getting down. His reaction time is getting down. He's with everything I'm teaching him and working with him on. So I mean, I like to be a teacher. So you take a guy who already has great boxing skills or whatever, or skills, and you just kind of help build and develop him a little bit more. So not saying his other guys didn't do a great job, because he got to this point. He's ranked number 1 in the world. But hey man, I'm just looking forward to the challenge, and that's kind of what it was. It was the challenge. It was the challenge to push him to be better. The challenge to push me to be better, and that's really what really motivated me and stimulated me to even get involved with him, was that the challenge. And
have you?
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna ask, have you started studying Beterbiev or anything, or has it just been working with Marcus?
No, you know what? Because I had to get to a particular point before. I watched Beterbiev like, say, 2 weeks ago, just for a couple rounds, and then because it's not so much about Beterbiev, it is about Marcus. Mm. So I mean, when we started camp, that's when I started mimicking Beterbiev. But I saw him a little bit, but my deal is to make sure that Marcus would work on his reaction time, his this, his that, everything that we work on, to where when we take off, we can go. And he's ready to react to it. He's ready to do what he needs to do with it, working with him on his power and this rotation, and, all the things like that. So.
Ooh, I can't wait.
He's fighting, Beterbiev is a tough fighter, powerful fighter. And so we just got to go in there, man, and listen. We were talking today. I said, I don't have to make you Superman. I just have to help you become better than Beterbiev that day.
Right.
So we're not reaching for the stars. We're just reaching for. And he's a phenomenal fighter, big puncher. So you just got to be able to be, be intelligent and be ready, because he's fighting a tough fighter.
Yeah, for sure. I can't wait. Now, another one of your guys, Jermell Charlo, is coming off the draw against Brian Castano last July. Is there any word on when he might return to the ring?
I don't know. I mean, I talked to him this weekend, and he said he could be fighting possibly within, some months. I'm not for sure. Maybe first of the year, so I'm not. And so we'll see. I'm not even for sure. I have no idea.
Okay. And you've also got in your very impressive stable a really good young fighter and undefeated lightweight, Frank Martin. What's the latest with Martin?
And man, he's doing good. He's training. He took a little holiday after the fight. He's back in the gym working, doing tour days. And he's on it, man. He's working. So, I mean, that's the type of motivation you like to see in a young fighter. Errol's promoting him, so it's going to be a great deal, man. It's like a family venture, you know what I mean? Yeah. So it's going to be great. Errol trains him. Errol promotes him, I train him. And, so that's a beautiful thing, man.
It sure is. Now, the 135 division is so stacked. How far away is Martin from taking on the top guys, in your opinion?
I think that he must be like number 2 or 1 in the WBA, because he was number 4 after the fight before. Then he fought another fight.
Oh, wow.
So
that would mean
it's going to be within a year for sure.
Wow, that means he might get, if Tank is still around, that might be a fight.
And it could be possible. I think Tank's a phenomenal fighter, man. They sparred before years ago. Wow. And I think that, Tank is the best 135-pound, I believe. You look at, especially one who's closer to him that he can reach and get to. And so I think that it's going to be a pretty interesting fight. I think there'll be a good fight. And if it's possible, or any of the other guys, we're not jumping right to that unless they say they present it. But, I think he's a great fighter. And we have room to grow, and room to get better, and room to develop.
Yeah, for sure. And it sounds like you're doing a good job of developing and working with all these other guys. Derrick, we want to thank you for joining us. It sounds you stay busy. I know that. It sounds like you just got even busier. So we can't wait. We can't wait to see you back in the corner again soon. And obviously, we hope to have you back on again.
Without a doubt, December 17th, Marcus Browne. I think you got this. What you got? This what you got to research. You have to research to see what trainer had 3 unified champs of the world.
Wow.
That's what you got. That research. That's your homework for the next show.
We're gonna check that out.
If there was one, because I know that Georgie Benton had Holyfield and he had Whitaker, but I wondered if they ever had 3 of them.
Oh,
question.
That's a good one. I don't think so. We gotta look that up and find out.
You gotta look it up, man. See, because but yeah, it's good, man. It's beautiful. It's great to be in a position where you people desire you and respect you for what you bring to the table and your mind and intellect, and that's dope. You know what I mean? It's great. So I'm just happy and great to be here with you guys tonight. It's good.
We're happy for you, man, and we can't wait to see what you've got planned for Marcus. Can't wait to see how he looks, and can't wait to see all your fighters back. So, Derrick, again, thank you as always, and of course, we'll be talking soon.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate that. Good to talk to you.
All right, take care.
Good night.
It's time for Mike and I to go toe to toe. Now, given what we witnessed last Saturday, this was a no-brainer. Our topic this week is, what were the 5 best heavyweight fights of the past 30 years? Mike and I have our list ready. We'll go in ascending order, of course. Mike, the floor is yours.
Okay. Maybe I will preface this real quick. I mean, once again, this was a little bit difficult. I had a list of about 10 fights that to choose from, but I feel pretty good about my 5. So here goes. Number 5 for me is Anthony Joshua versus Vladimir Klitschko, April 29, 2017 at Wembley Stadium. So this fight was just dripping with drama. It was it was a last hurrah for Klitschko. And to say he went out in his shield is an understatement. Joshua put Vlad down in the 5th round. Vlad put Joshua down in the 6th, after which a younger version of Klitschko might have ended the fight at that point. This one couldn't, though. Joshua recovered in the 11th round, put Klitschko down one more time, ending the fight right then and there. I think that's the toughest version of Joshua we've seen, which is kind of interesting. I'm not sure what happened to that guy. Maybe we'll see him again sometime in the future. Anyway,
I think that fight happened to that guy.
Maybe. You know what? That crossed my mind when I was typing that up, actually. Yeah, I thought of that. And what a way for Vlad to go out. I mean, he didn't win, but, man, mad respect for that guy.
Yeah, exactly. And I think he showed a lot in terms of his heart and his will, which had been questioned in the past, honestly, I think is ridiculous. But he did show a lot that fight. And that was a great, great fight. My number 5 was Tommy Morrison versus Razor Ruddock. So I'm taking you way, way back with this one. This was in 1995 in June. And I mean, this was a great back and forth. Ruddock dropped Morrison in the 1st. Morrison got back up. They went to war. Morrison hurt Ruddock in the 2nd round and really almost dropped him in that round, returning the favor. And I mean, they traded blows nonstop. And then in the 5th, Ruddock was putting a beating on Morrison, had him hurt going back to the corner, looked like he was about to finish the show in the 6th. And then out of nowhere, Morrison landed a huge left hook that, for all intent and purposes, finished Ruddock off right then and there. He got up, but he was really in no condition to continue, and Ruddock beat him down. Morrison beat him down until the fight was stopped. Really an excellent, excellent fight, and perhaps the finest performance of Morrison's career. I have to be honest. I haven't seen that fight since it happened, but the way you described it, I mean, when we finish here, I'm gonna go on YouTube and watch it. Right? Yeah. But you know what? Morrison and Ruddock and never made it to the promised land. They never won titles, but man, oh man, they gave us a lot of really good fights. Both of them did. Yeah, they certainly did. Yeah. What about number 4? Should I go first or?
Go for it.
Okay, my number 4, 2017. I was there ringside. Dominic Breazeale versus Izu Ugono. Ugono was an undefeated heavyweight up-and-comer. Brazil, obviously, we know who he is, top heavyweight contender. And these guys went to war. I can't tell you the number of times they dropped each other. The back and forth. I mean, it was a brutal fight. Brazil takes the canvas, Ugono takes the canvas, but in the end, Brazil's firepower was too much, stopping Ugono in 5 extremely electric rounds.
Yeah, now it's another fight I'm going to have to watch on YouTube.
Oh yeah, you got to watch it.
I remember watching that. I remember how good of a fight that was, though. I may actually even watched it twice.
Yeah.
You know what? Say what you want about Brazil. Big, strong guy, a ton of power. He's always fun to watch.
Yeah, always, and incredible heart.
Yeah.
What do you got for number 4?
Okay, number 4 for me is, we talked about this off the podcast, and at first I thought, because it wasn't maybe not enough back and forth, but it was such a huge fight. Evander Holyfield versus Mike Tyson won November 9, 1996 in Las Vegas. I was there. Again, I hesitated to include this because Holyfield won convincingly in the end. However, first of all, the atmosphere was just absolutely electric, as electric as I've ever seen for any fight, to be honest with you. And it wasn't as if Holyfield just, rolled over Tyson from beginning to end. There were a lot of hairy exchanges in that fight. I think he actually hurt him I think Tyson actually hurt Holyfield in the 5th round, was it?
Yes, he did.
Yeah. But Holyfield did ultimately break down Tyson and stop him in round 11, which is one of the biggest upsets of all time. Remember, Tyson was as much as a 25-1 favorite in that fight because Holyfield just didn't look good going into that fight. That made what actually happened in the ring all the more remarkable. That is one of the most memorable nights of my entire career as a boxing writer.
It's the same as it was for me, and that's why it's my number 3. I mean, the November 9th, 1996, I'll never forget. It was just incredible. I strongly believed heading in that Evander Holyfield would win, but I was just young. Not that I was just young, but I had greater conviction then.
Did your brother? Somebody tell you that they thought Holyfield was going to win that fight?
No. Well, what happened was that I was too young, but I told my brother, you need to bet on this fight because this guy's going to beat Holyfield. I mean, this guy's going to beat Mike Tyson. There's no doubt about it.
Okay.
Yeah, I had been in boarding school in Ghana for the couple years prior, and I didn't see Holyfield versus Bobby Chiz. I missed Holyfield 3. I hadn't seen the decline of Evander Holyfield, so I just knew Evander Holyfield to be the Evander Holyfield in 1994 that had regained the title and then lost a close decision to Michael Moore, but still looked good to me. And I just thought that this guy, there's no way Mike Tyson's beating this guy, and I pleaded with my brother to put some money down on the fight for me. Of course, he ignored me, but what an epic night, that was. Bet he'll listen to me now. Who you got for your number 3?
So my number 3 is, I have to acknowledge that I cheated here. This actually happened 31 years ago, so I didn't stay within the parameters. But Buster Douglas versus Mike Tyson, February 11, 1990 in Tokyo. Douglas controlled a lot of the fight, and we know what happened in the end. He shocked the world by scoring a 10th round knockout, maybe the biggest upset of all time in boxing, certainly one of a handful. But it was absolutely riveting as it unfolded, with a lot of give and take, and Tyson's inability to take control of the fight. And he did put Douglas down in round 8. Everyone had to be thinking at that point, I know I was, okay, finally, Tyson's going to put an end to this craziness, but nope. Douglas got up, and 2 rounds later, he made history. Absolutely unforgettable fight. And as I said, just riveting from beginning to end because of what unfolded.
Yeah, it certainly was. Did not see that fight live, but clearly one of the greatest upsets of boxing history. ESPN had a whole 30-30 on it, and a great fight if you watch it. And the Buster Douglas that fought that night was really impressive. I mean, he would be very hard to beat.
Yeah, he was on. He was spot on. Yeah.
Yeah, the movement, the boxing, the sharp punches, the combinations, very, very impressive fighter that night. Let's go on to our number 2. Who do you have?
Okay, my number 2 is, and this almost made number 1, so I was going back and forth. Number 2 for me is Riddick Bowe versus Evander Holyfield, 1 November 13, 1992 in Las Vegas. You've already alluded to this fight earlier in the podcast. Just a war from beginning to end, which I think says a lot about Holyfield, given that Bo was a talented guy who was much, much bigger than Holyfield. Holyfield got hurt pretty badly in the 10th and 11th rounds, but no surprise, somehow managed to hear the final bell. Holyfield lost the decision, which was his first loss of his career. But as you said, and we've talked about off the podcast, he won fans with his courage and determination in that fight. Yeah. I mean, he took a step forward in a loss, kind of like Wilder did, I think, on Saturday night. Special trilogy and special fight.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember they were, Holyfield started out boxing that fight, and I believe it was either the first or second round. They began fighting after the bell, and then from then on, it was just a war. It seemed like Holyfield was thrown off, and Bo had just an incredible jab, good quickness. I mean, everything that night, the 10th round, one of the greatest rounds in boxing history. It was just unbelievable to watch. And then Holyfield takes the canvas in the 11th. But as you said, gaining so much respect in that points loss, more than he had ever received up until that point. We realized how courageous and what a great fighter he was, and sure enough, he absolutely was. He proved that later on in his career, and that's why that fight is my number 2 as well. And I assume we have the same fight for number 1.
Go for it.
Yeah, mine is Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder, the third fight. I mean, we've discussed it ad nauseum at this point. I mean, really, just incredible back and forth, blood and guts, willpower. I mean, you name it. This fight had everything. A thrilling ending, a knockout ending, a definitive ending, and it was the third fight in a trilogy. I mean, what more could you have asked for? And one of the biggest fights on the list.
Right, and all I want to say is that we didn't do this toe to toe, come up with this idea of toe to toe just so we could say that this was a great fight. We didn't need to do that. We've already talked about it. I mean, everybody's saying it was an incredible fight. And my honest, real opinion is that's the best heavyweight fight that I've seen over the last 31 years. I mean, there was a lot of drama in the other fights that we talked about, a ton of drama, upsets, this and that. But just for sustained craziness and the back and forth and 5 knockdowns and the knockout at the end and the magnitude of the fight, and I can go on and on and on and on. It was just an absolutely incredible night of boxing. Maybe sometimes I think people get caught up in the moment. Maybe at some point we'll step back and say maybe it's not quite as good, but I just don't see that happening. That was an incredible fight.
Yeah, I think that one's going to get better over time. And, it's kind of hard to watch. It was pretty brutal, but no question. I mean, we're going to be talking about this fight for many, many, many years to come. And that's going to do it for this week's show. As always, be sure to like and subscribe to the PBC Podcast wherever you found us. We want to thank trainer Derrick James for joining us. And, of course, we want to thank you for listening. We'll be back next week for more boxing talk, more interviews right here on the PBC Podcast.